Okay, we're trying this again. I still hear my voice. Dang it. Well, hopefully it won't be too distracting. I'm gonna get on here and just paint. If let me know as I'm painting if you hear like a weird echo or if the audio sounds funky, because I can hear myself talking and it's unnerving. But I think it's just because it's my own voice. I'm gonna do a real fun painting of some flowers in a vase. And this is actually a canvas I'm recycling. So you can see I painted black on top of the original painting. And so I'm just kind of repurposing a canvas. I love painting on black canvases. One, it adds some really cool depth to the painting, but two, it's a good kind of recycle if you have a painting that either you don't love and you want to paint over, or sometimes I'll have paintings that I'll put the outline of a painting on and then end up not using it. Hi, Joy. How are you? Let me know. Thank you, Chelsea. Let me know how my audio is because I hear myself and I don't know if that's weird on your guys' side, but let me know what you think, if you can hear me or if it's loud and echoey. This is my third take, so I'm hoping that it's okay. But once again, I am recycling a canvas. Hello, Madeline. How are you today? And I am going to paint this really cute outline of a bouquet of flowers in a cute little funky vase. So I'm going to just kind of come on here. I'm going to start painting with a little bit of white, and then I'm going to add some teal to it. So there's, you might kind of see me doing this and bobbing and weaving a little bit. It's because there's a sheen on the canvas and I can't really see the outline super well. So at least as I'm outlining it, I may have to do some weird contortion moves. So sorry if I'm if I'm kind of all over the place today. Okay, Chelsea, thank you for letting me know that. That's one of my not fears, but I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get on there and be talking and you can't hear me, or it's echoey, or there's something funky going on. So thank you for letting me know that it sounds okay. So I am using acrylic paint. Once again, I said this is on a black canvas. And what I'm doing is I started off with a couple blobs of white paint, and then I'm just going to go over with this teal color and then let the two kind of mix. So I'm using acrylic paint, and acrylic paint loves to blend when it's wet. So since I have wet white paint and wet teal paint, you'll see how it kind of gives that marbly look. I like that look. If you don't, then just use one color and you won't have a weird marbly look like I do. But just using that same brush, not cleaning it off between swipes, just so that way, like I said, it gets that kind of marbled look. And I love painting on black canvases mainly because as this dries, you'll start to see it'll add a lot of cool texture and depth. And it's a good reuse. It's a good recycle. So I'm going to do the background first, just kind of coming in here, painting around my leaves, painting around my flowers. And to get the image onto the black canvas, I just used white graphite paper, white carbon paper. Graphite paper. So they make different colors of graphite paper. And I just got the white. And so that way anything that the outline is over will leave a white line. I also have the traditional black. So that way if I'm doing this like on a white canvas, I could do the outline with the black. So just kind of coming in here and going around my outline. This is going to be my background. And so I'm just kind of painting in all different directions. And like I said, I'm using wet white paint and wet teal paint and letting them kind of mix a little bit as I smush my brush around. So if you guys are jumping on and saying hi, let me know what you're doing this weekend. I'm in Montana, and over the last 2 days that we've had all the seasons. We've had sunny, we've had windy, we've had a little bit of snow last night, a little bit of rain this morning. So we're just not quite sure what we're celebrating in Montana. Because I think today's actually the first day of spring. I saw something cute and it said, I really wish the first day of spring was the last day of winter. And here in Montana, it's not. We're getting snow. I'm actually going to turn this upside down just for a few minutes so I can do the top and not have to I'm notorious for like putting my sleeve right in a bunch of wet paint, so I've learned over the years how to be slightly proactive. And so I'm using acrylic paint, and I'm just using, this is about a 1-inch brush. Oops, this way. The brand is Princeton Art and Brush Company, but you can use any brush. A lot of people get hung up on like, oh, I have to have the exact brush or the exact paints. You really don't. Just jump in and have fun. Don't start to overthink it. The less thinking you do, the better the art, I promise. I've been trying to get on here and paint every day. I missed yesterday. I'm so sorry. But I've been doing a lot of the door hangers, the wood designs that I have for spring, and I wanted to kind of mix it up. So this is a really cute, kind of funky spring or Mother's Day painting. So I wanted to get on here and paint a little bit with you guys. And I hate to use the analogy of, creating art like exercise, but you almost have to, well, at least for me, I have to get in the discipline of like painting every day or creating every day. If not, it's very easy to be like, oh, I'll just do it when I have some, extra time in a few days, and then life happens and extra time goes out the door. So I kind of needed to challenge myself to get on here and paint with you guys every day. And I'm almost holding true to that promise. Chelsea says, I can't be an artist without paint on sleeves. Totally. We'll pull up the sleeves. Jeremy kind of jokes. He's like, do you own any clothing that doesn't have paint on it? And I'm like, probably not. We'll try and make clothing with paint on them and hats trendy. I'll try and start a new trend for us, so we'll be on trend. Madam's like, painting 2 bunny pictures. Want to place them in a store for sale. Awesome. That's cute. 2 little paintings to go together, almost like a little scene or a little vignette. I love doing that. All right, so there's my background, and I'll turn this back around, but see how with the dark canvas kind of poking through, you get all kinds of cool, almost like shading starting to happen. So like I said, I love painting on black canvases for many reasons. It automatically gives you that kind of a little extra texture. In art school, they call it tinting your canvas. So like you would start with either brown or any color besides a pure white canvas. But also this is a really good use up for an extra canvas. If you are like me and you paint a lot, you probably have a painting you've either screwed up. Madeline says, so glad you're going live today. Well, I'm glad to be here. Like I said, it's fun, and it also is something that I need to keep myself in the practice of. All right. I put this away, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paint this kind of table that the vase is sitting on. So this is another little trick. Let the brush stroke help define the space. So my background, I went in all different directions. With my table, I'm going to be very intentional and paint side to side or horizontally. Come in here. And when you're painting around shapes, you can, paint whatever direction and then just come back and change the direction of the brush stroke, because believe it or not, even the direction that the paint is put on the canvas will kind of trick the eye in which direction, like, okay, so if your brain sees that it's going side to side, it goes, oh, that's a table. And then I'm going to add a little bit of purple on top of the teal of the table, just so that way it once again just gives a little more distinction between the table and the background. And I'm also going to use this purple later on in the flowers. So that's why I intentionally picked this down here, because I'm going to tie that color up in the bouquet of flowers. It kind of is, so if you're painting something similar to this, or any painting in general, it's good to kind of have the same colors be in multiple places of the painting. It just makes it a little easier on the eyes. Have the bag that matches the shoes. Just kidding. So just kind of coming in here and smearing in a little bit of this purple. Same idea as the background. I want those 2 colors to blend a little bit, but not blend completely. So you can see the streaky of the teal and the purple, but this very much looks like it's a separate space than this. Does that make sense? Sometimes I ramble. Not sometimes. I always ramble. Okay, so we've done our background, and now I'm going to come in and start painting my flowers. I'm going to change it up and use a round brush. I'll show you what that looks like. For the background, I use a square or flat brush. There you go. I always just call it a square brush because it's square, but this is actually technically a flat brush. And this is a round brush. So you can kind of, I always go the wrong direction. You can see how the end is a little bit rounded, hence the name. Real complicated here with art terms. Round brush, flat brush. All right, so I'm going to take some pink. And this is just like a Pepto-Bismol bubblegum kind of pink. And I'm going to paint almost like in a little C shape or like a little comma shape. I'm going to come in because naturally the petals are going to kind of, I don't want to say fold into one another, but kind of make that shape eventually. So once again, I'm just letting my paint help me make that illusion of a flower by keeping the kind of rounded way that I apply the paint to the canvas. Now, I think I'm going to have pink flowers and a couple orange flowers. Or do you think I should do pink and yellow and orange? Let me know what you think. I'm going to throw in a few pink ones, and then maybe we'll do, like I said, either orange and yellow, or just orange, or just yellow. Or heck, if you think I should do them all pink, I'll do them all pink. So how I had mentioned that acrylic paint will blend when it's wet, my background kind of tealish white color is still wet. So as I'm painting this pink, I want to be mindful that where those two colors touch, if I came in here and swirled my brush around, those two colors would start to mix, which a little bit of mixing is okay, but you don't want it to kind of blend into one another. So we'll do that one pink. Oh, Chelsea says yellow. How come I'm not surprised by that. Chelsea, you love yellow. I do too. It's a very happy color. Very underrated. I know this sounds kind of nerdy, but to ask an artist, what's your favorite color? That's like asking, a teacher, who's your favorite student? Well, I don't know. Maybe that's not a hard question. A parent, which one's your favorite kid? But I love all colors for different reasons, as silly as that sounds. But truly, colors evoke emotion, and yellow is always associated with, sunshine, or, happiness, or warm feelings, or money, gold. Those are old positive things. So yellow is definitely a good color. So I'll do yellow. I think I'm going to do one more pink flower. I'm looking at my screen to see where, as far as design wise goes, layout wise goes. I think I'm going to make this one right here a little pink. But I'm just coming in and smushing that pink color. And you'll notice that as the colors dry, they won't be as vibrant. So you'll notice that these pink flowers right now are nice and vibrant. And then as they dry, the color will kind of tone down a little bit. So you can always go back and add another layer of pink, or add a little bit of white, because the dark background will kind of counteract the brightness. So you can almost paint this in lighter colors than you anticipate, and they would still come through and read as darker colors. I think that makes sense. In my brain, it makes sense. Hopefully when it came out of my mouth, it made sense. I'm going to make this flower down here at the bottom pink as well. Throw in a few yellow ones, and then I'll decide if I want to add orange or if I just like the pink and the yellow. But good call, Chelsea. I like yellow. I was on here the other day painting a cute little Easter bunny door hanger, and I was like, I don't quite know what color to paint this section down here, and somebody gave me an idea. I'm like, perfect, thank you. So you guys always give me great ideas. So please feed me inspiration. All right, there's my pink, and then we'll go with some yellow. And once again, since yellow is such a bright color and this is a darker background, I'm actually going to mix a little touch of white with my yellow. So this yellow will be almost like a buttermilk yellow, but as it goes on and dries, it'll read more as like a sunshine yellow. So pick right this. Where should my happy little yellow flower live, as Bob Ross would say? Once again, still using that same kind of half circle, comma shape with my hand. Do that one yellow. We'll do this one right here yellow. Nice bright, happy, chipper yellow color. Chelsea, do you like daffodils? I live in Montana now, but back in California, there was a place not too far from my house called Daffodil Hill, and they planted literally thousands of daffodils. So actually, probably right about now, they're all in bloom. So if Chelsea, if you ever make it back out to Cali, go check. I think it's technically in Ione, California, but Daffodil Hill is so pretty, and all kinds of beautiful bright yellow daffodil flowers. I think I'm gonna do, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more flowers to add. I'm thinking I'm gonna throw in some orange. And I have orange paint, but if you don't, you could always oh, you said Seattle always had daffodils. Nice. I didn't know there was a birth flower. Is that like a birth stone? I'm assuming it is. I'm an August baby, so I wonder what mine is. Probably a sunflower or something. So I'm going to add a little bit of orange. But if you don't have orange, you could always just mix the pink and yellow. Maybe I don't have any orange. Come out. Actually, I'll just mix the two then. So if you mix yellow and orange, you will get a pink, or blah, blah, blah. If you mix pink and yellow, you'll get an orange color. Purple? Chelsea? Is that what you're saying? I should do a purple flower instead of orange? Thanks. I have purple. So I can do that. We'll throw in a purple one. I have my whole little cup of brushes right here, so I'm trying to find another round brush so that way I don't have to clean them out. I'm going to use a flat for this. Oh, no. So we'll do this one right here, purple. And because purple is a darker color, like if I was using dark blue or this dark purple, I'll see how it's kind of popping. But if it didn't, I could always add white to it, so it almost be like a lavender color. Actually, I'll show you real quick. So I'm just going to dip my brush in a little tiny bit of white. So it makes it like a lavender color. And because this is lighter, as it dries, it'll probably read closer to this actual true color. So I'll do purple there. Chelsea said gladiolus or poppies for August. Oh, thank you for looking that up. I love gladiolus. Is that the plural? Gladiola, gladiolus? I don't know, but they're pretty. Living out here, I haven't gotten to garden as much as I did in California. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me, Chelsea, if deer like gladiolas or not. But where I was in California, we didn't have, well, we had deer, but they didn't. They would stay near the rivers and streams. But where we are in Missoula, there's a nice family deer. Oops, that's a leaf. I just made an oops. So this right here is a leaf, and I accidentally painted it purple. Guess what? Not a big deal. When I teach paint parties, people always are like, oh, I messed it up. I painted it in the wrong area. Don't worry about it. Let it dry. Paint right on top of it. So we'll do, I'm trying to think of these two right here. I'll do this one purple. Not that, I mean, like, see how these two are touching each other? They're two pink ones. I was trying to think which flower I should do in which color. And I'll make this a lighter purple. Add a lot of white to this one, so it's more like a lavender purple flower. And then I'll add just pure purple to the other one, so that one will be a little bit darker. So you can have two of the same. I mean, you can paint all these flowers the same color if you wanted to. I just am ready for spring flowers and colors. But see how pretty that is? And all I'm doing is blobbing in different colors. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll come in and add some more dimension, some outline. And I'm going to do my base black and white. So even though the background is black, I'm going to still go over that and just make sure it's nice and saturated. Once again, there's another big art word. just making sure that the black is nice and vibrant. Try not to get any paint on my sweater. So I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna do white, white, white. And I just do a little blob like that so that way I remember when I'm painting. Google says deer tend to stay away from gladioli. Well, I think you're just like my, like instead of saying, hey Alexa, I could say, hey Chelsea. You're my little encyclopedia today. Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are in the Missoula area, my friend Chelsea, the one that's chatting, also does paint parties. I know you're in Clinton, but if you want to check out her Facebook page, she also does fabulous paint parties in the greater Missoula, Montana area. Chelsea, if you want to post your business page link, go for it. But once again, I'm just coming in here and I'm going to repaint the areas solid black and then rotate every other one with this white. I think it'll be kind of a fun black and white striped base. Sorry, I'm trying to think and concentrate and it's hard. All right. And I'm not like super stressed about my lines at this point. I can come back and define my lines. I'm just kind of thinking of it like a big coloring book. It doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, sometimes I'll kind of come in and just fill in color and then I'll go, oh shoot, you know, like maybe this section went from fat to skinny or skinny to fat, one of the other ones. Chelsea's got my back. I'm here for you, girl. I got you. All right. Nice even layers of paint dry faster than thick clumpy ones. So I'm always trying to come in and just even out my paint so it's an even layer versus one section being super thick and drying uneven and getting lumpy. And as I'm coming around like where my pink is, I know that that pink is still wet because I can see how shiny it is. And especially with white paint, those two colors, if they touch, will blend super easy. So if you're worried about that, just wait a few minutes until it dries because acrylic paint does dry very quickly. Or just zap it with a blow dryer and then you can dry it quicker. So just be careful if you are using acrylic paints and one area is still wet because those two colors, I mean, and honestly, sometimes it's cool when the colors blend, but if you're intentionally not wanting them to, just be a little extra mindful. And once again, if they do blend, let it dry. Paint on top. Nobody will ever be the wiser. I won't tell if you won't tell. All right. So coming in, and the sequence of what I'm painting, the background, the flowers, the vase, I'm kind of painting in different areas so that way they can dry. So like you'll notice I haven't done the leaves. I'm intentionally leaving those for one of the very last steps. So that way that the background has a chance to dry and the flowers, you know, because they're going to touch the same edges, those have a chance to dry. So I am intentional in how I'm moving around the canvas as I'm painting, but it's not, you know, if you did the leaves first and then the table and then the vase, you know, it's not that big of a deal. So once again, I know it kind of seems silly to paint black paint on a black canvas, or if this was the opposite, let's say if it was a white canvas, to paint the white areas, but sometimes just so that way I know there's good, even color, or in this case, black is not a color, but you know what I'm getting at. Just coming in, just making sure it's nice and even, but not a have to. There's a lot of times on a white canvas, if there's an area like how this would be, I won't paint it unless maybe I accidentally like put a little scuff or something there. Yes, 10 different artists, you'll get 10 different answers. Should you paint the canvas? Some people do, some people don't. So it's a long way to say it's totally up to you. All right. Painting with lines. And like I said, I'm going to outline at the very end So I'm not super stressed like if this line's perfect. I mean, you can definitely tell that line is not perfect, that area, but when I come in and do the outline, all those little areas will be cleaned up. All right, so our vase. See how fast this is? I've been painting for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And granted, I do this a lot faster than most people, but this is not a hard painting. So when people get like stressed out about painting, it's like, just relax, people. Oh, I want to use a light green. So now I'm going to come in and do the leaves, and I'm intentionally using a very light green because, like we said, painting on top of the canvas will kind of mute that bright color. So this is a very bright kind of pastel green, I guess. But you'll notice, see how these flowers, you're starting to see more of that black undertone kind of coming through. It's just because as it dries, it loses its vibrancy. I don't know if you've ever like painted a room in your house or something, and then you're like, oh my gosh, that color is very like bright, and then as soon as you put furniture in, or the lighting of the day changes, you're like, oh, it's not as, it doesn't seem as obnoxious as when you first paint it. And that's usually because either colors will mellow as they dry, the actual paint color, or depending on whatever the if you have bright lighting or if you have a lot of bright colors next to it, they can kind of enhance or mute, I guess, colors. But whenever, if you do decide to paint on a black canvas, like I said, just kind of be mindful and think that you might want to use brighter or lighter colors than you might anticipate. Because, like I said, they darken. So I'm just flipping this around so that way paint sleeve Julie doesn't glob a bunch of paint in that direction. I've had a lot of bad nicknames. I don't know if I want to be known as Paint Sleeve Julie, but hey, not the worst thing in the world, right? So just coming in here, and like I said, just like a huge coloring book. That's a fun thing about painting and then using that graphite paper. Like I said, graphite paper comes in multiple colors, but I have black and white. And the black, of course, I use on a white canvas, and then on a black canvas, you use the white graphite paper. And then you have the outline on there, and it's just like a coloring book. And who doesn't love a giant coloring book? So like I said, right now, the main thing I'm trying not to do is accidentally pick up any wet paint from another area, like the purple flower or the black line on the base. And if you're doing this and that starts to happen to you, or if you're super worried about it, just let it dry for a few minutes, or zap it with a blow dryer. Ugh, almost did it. I always take a couple blow dryers to paint parties, and of course they're covered in paint, so I always joke with ladies, I'm like, a little bit different than what's in your bathroom or at the salon, because my blow dryers are covered in paint. And then I also have a baby wipe container that I take, or like the little plastic tub that you put the refills in, and of course it's covered in paint. I'm like, I bet your baby wipe dispenser doesn't look like mine. All right, painting. And then here was that leaf. Remember, I accidentally painted this area purple, and I went, oh shoot, that's not supposed to be that color. Because my purple is dry now, I can paint right on top of it and cover that up, and you'll never know that I made it. Oops. Ta-da! One of my jokes when I teach paint parties, because I've painted so much personally, but I've also taught a ton of paint parties. I've seen a lot of people, and I personally have screwed up a lot of times. And I've become very proficient at fixing oopses, mistakes. So I always joke at my paint parties, I'm like, okay, so if your painting goes a little crappy, I can bring it back to happy. And then I have another joke, but I don't want to offend anybody because it's got the SHIT word in it. I tell people if it's not pretty, or if it starts to go that way, I can bring it back to pretty. I won't say it because I don't want to get in trouble. Or have Facebook, flag me for using potty mouth words. Plus, sometimes my dad watches, and I'm sure my dad doesn't want to see his daughter cursing on Facebook, so I won't, but you know what I'm trying to say. All right. So this is almost completely covered in paint. And like I said, this didn't take too long. It's not speed paint. And I know I'm a lot faster than most, only because I've done this repetition, repetition, repetition. But coming in here, and like I said, just like a big coloring book, wherever there's a leaf shape, I'm filling in with green. Wherever there's a flower shape, I painted in with pink, purple, or yellow. Lines on the base. And then really where the fun happens, or where things kind of start together, is when you start doing the outlining. And when it comes to doing the outlining, by all means, you don't have to use a paintbrush. I've been saying this all week. A Sharpie or permanent marker works just as well. And because a lot of people, I handle a paintbrush all the time, but a lot of people don't. So it's very uncomfortable for them and awkward. But holding a pen is something that you do every day. So if that's the case, by all means, just use a pen. So I'm coming in here and just adding some longer kind of like stems for the leaves to be on. Then every once in a while I'm just putting like a little green swish mark. Maybe I'll turn this back around so you're not looking at it upside down. All right, see how cute that is? And it's I love, once again, why I love the black background is because it really gives it a very almost kind of feels like almost like a pastel drawing. And there's a lot of texture and a lot of movement. And I know that sounds really nerdy because I'm like, oh, it's so vibrant with its texture and its movement. But all I'm saying is that it's not like a photograph. And this type of painting is very freeing because it's not like, oh, you have to get every single detailed correct. Like if I'm like, oh, I want to have a leaf over here, a little twig over there. It's all just having fun. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing the black outline. And like I said, this is really when it starts to come together. And at any point, if you were doing this at home and, the paintbrush just wasn't feeling comfortable in your hand, let it dry and just use a permanent marker. And how do you know when acrylic paint is dry? One, if you put your, if I touch it and no paint on the finger, that's one way. But you don't want to have your, dirty fingerprints everywhere. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. See, look at the black lines of the base. See how it's shiny? That means it's still wet. Maybe, I don't know if you guys can see the flower. See how in the flower, some of it's shiny, some of it's like dull or matte in appearance? Shiny means it's wet. So if it's shiny, leave it alone. If it's, a little more dull, that means that it's dry. But people always make fun of me because at paint parties, I'm like, looking down, always like moving around, trying to see where the sheen is. And that's only because, like I said, wet paint is shiny. Or I should say shinier, because you can get gloss paint that is shiny, but a wet paint will always be shinier than dry matte paint. All right, a lot of talking about paint sheen. But see, I'm just going to come in here and start doing the outline. Now, I am going to use a flat brush, and I'm going to use the skinny edge. The reason why I like this is because this brush holds a ton more paint than a little tiny baby brush like this. I'm lazy. I don't like constantly dipping my paintbrush back in the paint. So what I do is I just run my brush, when I pick up paint, I go a few times this way, turn it over, go a few times this way, and go back and forth. And that just helps keep all those little bristles glued together or styled together, I guess. Chelsea says we can see a little, yeah, just a little bit. But I'm going to come in here and start to outline the bigger areas. When it comes to some of the smaller, more detailed areas, or when it comes to the flowers, and I want a lot of like circular lines, because these bristles are straight, you don't get as easy, what I'm trying to say, you don't have as much control. So when it comes to doing big, long, straight or straight-ish lines, I'll use this little flat brush. But when it comes to doing the flowers and stuff, I'll show you. I'll switch to using a smaller brush. So just kind of coming in here. Those are still a little bit wet, so I'm going to let those dry for a little bit longer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and use a brush. See this brush? See how it's got long bristles? So when I do this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to twirl the brush in the paint. I know you guys can't really see that because it's black paint and it's hard to see. But once again, when I'm taking that brush in the paint, I'm just twirling it like that. And so once again, the paint will kind of clump together and all hold true to those bristles. So I'm going to come in here and start outlining the flowers. Just kind of doing a series, like I said, kind of that comma or parenthesis shape. And then to do the inside of the flower, I'll show you. This is not like a fancy technique. It's just what I do because it's easy. So what I do is this is dry, so I'm going to use my pinky and kind of brace. And I do a circle and then kind of a little extra. So almost like an at symbol, like, you know, when something at. So it's a little bit of a circle, then with like a little extra tail. And then I just start coming in here and adding these extra like frowny lines or that kind of comma or colon. And sometimes you can do a double one. It kind of looks like a butt, a little double butt. But that's how I do my flowers. So I will do the black, and then once that dries, I'll go back in and add a little bit with white, or even you can do like a lighter pink if you had two tones. But that's my big trick to doing flowers. Now you guys know all my tricks. A little at sign and then a double butt. I'm just going to come in here and start outlining the leaves. I'm going to add more details to them later, but you'll really, really notice this little bit of outlining makes a huge, huge difference. Once again, sorry guys, going to flip this around. I'm painting flat, and so sometimes it's easier to flip things around. And even when I'm painting on an easel, I will often times paint, like move it in different directions. Sorry, I can't talk. I'm concentrating. So Chelsea, if you're still on, what do you got going on this weekend? See how fun that is? We're going to do family pictures soon. And so it's kind of fun because I've been watching the weather. I'm like, so are we going to have really pretty, you know, snow on the mountain wintry pictures, or are we going to have a couple days of sunshine and then everything will turn green and we can be like, hey, it's the first day of spring pictures. So we'll see how Montana wants to play that deck of cards. But I'm super excited. Montana is by far the most beautiful place I've ever been to, and I've been to some very beautiful places. And I'm excited to get some family pictures. We've had pictures done with our other dogs, but this will be our first time doing pictures, like professional pictures, with a little Jack. All right, and when you have overlapping flowers like this purple one is tucked behind these other ones, you're just going to want to outline. So like if I want this flower to look like it's in front of the purple one, I'm going to follow the outline of this flower on top of the one behind it, if that makes sense. So you'll have to kind of in your brain decide which flower you want to be closer or like in front of the other flowers, and then just outline accordingly. That way you can add in the different layers. And remember, this step can easily be done with a permanent marker. I'd actually encourage you, if you're not super, super comfortable holding a brush, use the Sharpie your first few times. I actually taught a paint party, and it had these really cool clouds in the background, and I have multiple colors of Sharpies, but also different like thicknesses, I guess, and it was a fine tip one, and she had done these really cool, almost like illustrative faces in the clouds. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I actually ended up taking a picture, so if you scroll through my Facebook feed from, I think it was about a week, maybe a week and a half ago, you can see, but it was so cool. So I mean, you can use pen on top of painting, you get a really, really cool look. So it's almost like an illustration type of feel. So Chelsea says you're watching Matrix, putting a beehive painting together. Very fun. I love beehives. Let me send me a picture when you're done painting it. I tried to do one last year. I didn't really put a lot of time into it. I was going to try and do a bee painting as for a paint party. And the one that I did for my demo I didn't really like. So I was going to go back and redo it and just never did. But I've always loved Jeremy and I have actually dabbled with the idea of doing beehives. But I know that it's very, very, not necessarily labor intensive, but I know high maintenance, I guess is a better way to put it. But we took a beekeeping workshop back in California. It was really cool. I got a group on, but I think it was like an hour or 2 hour presentation. And then you got to do honey tasting with wine tasting. It was at a winery. So it was a lot of fun. So we went with some friends of ours. And at the end, we're like, let's get bees. We were all like on the get beehive bandwagon, I guess. But we just never got around to it. And our neighbors here have a beehive. We don't know them very well, but I see their beehive. So I always want to go like, knock, knock. Hi, neighbor. Let's be friends. Let's have bees. But haven't gotten up the nerve to quite do that yet. They'd probably slam the door in my face and be like, no, you're a little too weird. All right. But I'm doing, just like I said, a little bit of outlining. And you don't have to outline every single detail. You can if you want. But if you're doing this and you're like, nope, you can just do like a partial outline. But one of the things that I thought was cool about bees and honey is whatever is growing in like the area where they, I guess like their territory, wherever they're flying around, whatever they pollinate, that is what the honey tastes like. So if you see, you know, I don't know, what are some different types of honey? Whatever, like, dang it, I'm having a brain fart. What are some different types of honey? Oh, Chelsea, good idea. She said you can always plant bee happy flowers. Sunflowers are great. That is true. I have a little garden. It's super tiny. It's just a couple 5-gallon buckets, but I did basil last year and tomatoes and peppers and some flowers. And so when all the bees would come over, I was so happy. Okay, so I'm going to start adding some details to these flowers. And once again, same idea, kind of do just like the little at sign and then add a couple of these swishy swirls, little commas, little double butt, little loops. See how cute that is? Oh, yeah. I'm going to just do these real quick. I keep thinking I should turn it back around, but then I'm going to run into the same problem with my sleeve getting in the way. But just coming in here and doing real quick little lines. And once again, if you go, ooh, I wish I wouldn't have done that there, let it dry and then go back with whatever your flower color is and you can paint on top of it. And remember, some of these flowers are going to overlap each other. So like this purple flower, I'm not kind of going crazy with the petals. So just as you're doing these, it's real easy just to get going and start going nuts. But do keep in mind kind of your composition of like what flower, you know, is bigger, which one's smaller, which one's in front of one another. Maybe you have a couple that are clustered together. Chelsea, good call on that yellow. That yellow looks awesome. Like I say, you guys have the best idea. Just come in here real quick. And then wait until I come in and add the white. That's going to look awesome. Little highlights. So these, I mean, these aren't necessarily like shadows. They're just kind of like defining outlines. But then I come in with some white, or like I said, you can even use a lighter version of whatever color. So like this is a good example. See this flower? See how like almost half of it's covered up by this darker flower? I know that the center of the flower is going to be right here. Let me do this closer so you guys can see. So I know my center of the flower is about right here. So that's where I'll do that little @ symbol. And then I know that it's overlapping. So wherever I think like I can use my imagination and just pretend that I knew where the rest of that flower was. See how I was kind of mindful of that? Like most people would want to start the center of their flower way over here, but if you actually imagine this entire flower shape, that's where the center would be. So when I was talking about like being mindful of, you know, doing what flowers will be overlapped or however they are layered in the vase, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Just kind of use your imagination, and as you go from each flower, just kind of keep that in mind. So I'm going to add a little line in the leaves so it kind of looks like the veining. And it's kind of fun to add a little detail, step back, see if that's enough, if you want to add more. Less is more. And I always tell people go with your intuition. Like if you're like, I think if I add any more, I'm going to screw it up, then guess what? Don't add any more. Stop right then. I was going to joke with people. I'm like, you have to stare at it forever. So if you don't like it, fix it now while the paint is here. Add a little line there and a line there. All right. Let me turn this back around so you guys can see what it looks like, not upside down. See how cute that is? Yay, I love it. And you can always go back and add like metallics. I may actually do that when it's dry. Anytime I add metallics though, I always wait until the other paint is dry. Cute, huh? All right, so like I said, I'm going to do basically that same kind of step, but I'm going to use white now. So this is more like a highlight. So I can come in with the flowers and add kind of that same technique, just adding those little swooshes, little swooshy whoosh, little double butts. And like I said, anything that I'm doing, you don't have to do. But see how that little bit of white in the flower just really adds a ton. And then you can also do the same in the leaves. And guess what? They make white permanent markers too. So if you love doing the Sharpie, do the same stuff with a white permanent marker. There's a brand that I really, really like. It's called Posca, 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 I believe. And you can get them online at Amazon, but I believe they sell Michaels too. So if you have a Michaels near you, but that's a really, really good brand of white permanent marker. All right. So I did it for half a second, but I'm going to turn it back around. Should just kept it upside down. Sorry, guys. But you can see I've been painting for about 45 minutes. Joy says, why do you use the black instead of a darker version of the color you painted the flowers? You could. This is a very illustrated looking painting, like the very graphic black and white base. So you definitely can. So like I could use I could use like a red for the pink, a dark purple, or even like a blue for that, a very dark yellow. You definitely can. I'm just being lazy and black is easy. So I threw it on there. So you definitely could just use a darker version. And then Joy also says you love the base. Isn't that fun? It's just like I said, very bright and bold. I know black and white. I don't know if it was like a cartoon strip or if it was something popular, but I remember like in the 90s, I think black and white stripes, like that was a pretty popular either like way to decorate your house or trendy something. I don't remember. Maybe I'm making crap up. I do that sometimes. Okay, coming in here with the white highlights. And I just do a little bit here and there. And then, like I said, I'll look at it from far away or go, you know, have a soda and come back. If I'm doing this at a paint party, I'll go help painters and then come back to it. But sometimes, most of the time, when you're painting, it's really smart to kind of just give your eyes a break and walk away from it for a while and then come back to it, because you may be surprised, maybe you're getting frustrated and it's just not coming together and everything you touch is making it worse. If you are an artist, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that perspective makes a huge difference. And also getting up and looking at your painting from some distance makes a big difference too. And with that, you know, a lot of times at a paint party, I'll pick up somebody's painting and walk across the room, and they're like, oh, I need to change the lower left-hand corner or whatever. Because for whatever reason, that little bit of perspective, that distance, or like I said, giving your eyes a chance to look at something besides your painting, um, just kind of helps the brain recalculate or reacclimate. And then you can get a different perspective and go, oh, that's what I need to fix, versus staring at it going, I hate the whole thing, it all looks horrible, which I've heard people do that too. I think one of the smartest things that I have learned in teaching paint parties is when people say, oh, I hate my painting. I ask them, articulate about your painting do you hate? Because I could go in, like, let's say this was their painting and they're like, I hate it. And I'm like, oh, well, let me redo the yellow flowers. And they might go, I like the yellow flowers. I didn't like the leaves. So people can tell me exactly what they don't like I said, I've messed up a ton of paintings and helped a lot of people fix a ton of paintings. So if people can like articulate what they don't like, then I can help them fix it. But sometimes it takes them to have like a little bit of a mental shift for them to even go, okay, what is it about my painting that's driving me nuts? They just get frustrated and I'm not a good artist. Well, slow your jets, you know, let's take a look at it. But as artists, we're always our most critical. So add a little swooshy swoosh and another little swooshy swoosh. But see how that white just really adds something to it. All right, turning this guy around. I think I'm going to add some highlights in the actual vase too. See if my paintbrush is too dry. So I'm going to come in here and drag a line. Ugh. My paintbrush is starting to dry. Let me clean it off real quick. I'm being a bad artist. I'm letting my brush sit out with paint on it. I would yell at somebody if they were doing that at my paint party. So do as I say, not as I do. But the bristle started to get hard and dry. So let me reapply. All right, that little highlight. See how that really just adds a touch? And then I'll do the same thing on this side. If you're ever painting anything reflective, like a glass, a vase, I don't know, anything shiny, that kind of highlight makes such a huge difference. It's kind of like anytime I'm painting anything with eyes, by just doing that little white highlight, that one little white dot, it changes everything. So come in here, add some extra little, just like we added the highlights in the flowers and in the leaves, kind of come in here, just kind of follow that same outline of the lines on the base. Maybe make this one a little bit bigger. Maybe one extra one up here. I'm also trying to clean up the black and white lines, but see how cute that looks? Ah, I love it. I may even add a little couple lines in the table. Oh, you know, it'd be fun. It'll do it like wood grain. So I'm going to do highlights, but I'm going to make it feel like the highlights are the wood grain. And you know what? If I do this and I hate it, paint on top of it. Let it dry. Nobody will know. Just like that. All right, well, I think I'm going to call this painting pretty much done. What do you guys think of that wood grain? Yay or nay? I like it, but I also reserve the right to in the future say I don't like it. Okay, guys, thanks so much for jumping on here. Once again, sorry I missed you yesterday, but hopefully this made up for it. And I will be painting again tomorrow as long as nothing crazy happens. But I hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend. If it's sunny where you are, go enjoy a little bit of sunshine. If it's not sunny where you are, like it is here, build a fire, find a good book, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Or paint, create something fun. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye, Chelsea. Bye, Joy.